I had the completely wrong idea about self-love, self-acceptance, and I think you might as well. Maybe this sounds familiar. Self-acceptance or self-compassion, it's just about reframing your mind, the way that you think. Rather than being so critical, telling yourself off all the time, you can be loving and kind in your thoughts. You can speak to yourself as if you were a good friend. And that just means changing the narrative, being kinder. So when you make a mistake, you're not beating yourself up. You're picking yourself up, saying, hey, it's okay. You'll be all right. That's what I thought self-love was about. And I've been practicing that for years. I've been on a spiritual journey ever since a very difficult breakup 5 years ago that came completely out of the blue. But even before that, I was kind of obsessed with self-improvement. I started reading How to Make Friends and Influence People when I was 16, which is very, very young when I think about it. So I've read a lot of these self-help books. And the idea of self-acceptance was critical to a lot of them. And it felt very relevant to me because I was so unkind to myself. There's a reason I was drawn towards the self-help section of the bookshop. I felt like there was something that I needed to change, that I needed to improve. And then when I'd done that, then I could feel happy, then I could feel worthy. All of that was unconscious, of course, but that was essentially pulling me in that direction. And I recognize even to this day, that thread has its little wrap around me. The feeling of unworthiness. Perhaps it's the most intrinsic feeling for being human. Are we truly worthy of this existence? You can look at, biblical stories of Adam and Eve and the original sin. Perhaps the original sin is coming into consciousness, questioning yourself, wondering, are you even worthy of this? Are you even worthy of the paradise of life? And of course, with the arrival of that thought of the ego, they were cast out of heaven, doomed on planet Earth. So the story goes. And so many of us struggle on a day-to-day basis with feelings of unworthiness. And we look for it in so many different areas. Sorry, if you hear some sounds in the background, that's my little house cat. Hey, Juniper. Hello. Hey. You can't actually see this, but I don't have a tripod for this video, so I'm actually using the cat play stand. You may get some purring. Hey, Juniper. So, back to the idea of the original sin and unworthiness. If I can find myself not being distracted by the cat meows. Yeah, so we look constantly outside of us for the validation that we are, in fact, worthy of love. And that might come in the form of status, of a job title. It might come in the form of a partner. Because suddenly then we're receiving love. Okay, we are worthy of this love. But it's so external. And what I've realized is that sense of love and worthiness, it doesn't come from words. It can be a part of it, of course. I like to look at it a bit like the love languages. You might have heard of those. In relationships, people express their love perhaps through words of affirmation, or quality time, or acts of service, or physical affection, or gifts. We can apply those same love languages to ourselves and recognize within ourselves, through my behavior, am I expressing and demonstrating love to myself? Am I taking care of my body? Am I going to the gym? Am I eating well? Am I investing in quality, nurturing relationships? Am I spending time in nature? Do I treat myself occasionally? These are all ways that we can demonstrate to ourselves that we do in fact love ourselves, that we are caring for us. And so words of affirmation are important. We can look in the mirror and we can say, hey, aren't you beautiful today? And in fact, I did that today. I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, look at this hair, girl. You're so pretty. And it's nice. But it's not quite deep enough. Because what is love? Really, what is love? This is something that we talk about throughout our culture. Every song, every movie, every book seems to have love, either as the centerpiece or, the decoration around whatever is being expressed. It's so fundamental. And we say, I love you. We say, I love this. It's a very simple word for a huge spectrum. And I hadn't really taken the time to question what love was. Had I felt love? And what is that feeling? For a lot of us, for all of us, our first experience of love comes from our parents, our guardians. It's very often why we end up repeating their patterns in their expressions of love. And so maybe our parents demonstrated love through gifts. And now that's how we seek it, or maybe that's how we express it. But what about the feeling of love? Have you genuinely experienced the feeling of love in your heart when you're with someone, perhaps in your own demonstration of love to them? And questioning that in myself, wondering what that feeling is, tuning into the sense of warmth, like a glow, also a sense of comfort and safety. Maybe at its brightest moments, a feeling of expansion or pushing outwards, bursting at the seams. And I feel like I've only just scraped the surface of love, because my heart has been closed off for so long. It feels like I'm stoking the fires, going from these little embers that were always within me, but perhaps I wasn't paying attention to suddenly kindling them. And I want to get to a place of this bonfire of love. Because when we can be present in love, present in our bodies, not just present in our minds, so much more is possible. So these words of affirmation, they're great from a mind perspective, but they're not an embodied sense of love. And this is really, really important. When we make mistakes, when we slip up, when we feel bad about ourselves, when we have feelings of sadness, it's not enough to tell ourselves it'll be okay. Is there any feeling in that? No. This is about genuinely going into your heart, feeling that sense of warmth and allowing it to radiate through your body. That's what giving love to yourself is. And there's this wonderful technique by Brach that I've been applying. And it's for how to manage emotions as they arise. Because so often we avoid them. We go to our phone, we go to Netflix, we go to our work. We might not even be conscious that we're doing that. But there's a sense of discomfort that's arisen and we distract ourselves. Well, we can apply this technique called RAIN. And it's a 4-step process. The first is to recognize. And this can be quite challenging. It's just even to recognize that a feeling has arisen. Something I've noticed in myself is I can just be very reactive to emotion. I can be completely absorbed by it. The sadness, the loneliness. It's like this cloud has just come into my field of vision, and that's all I see. So when we can recognize that a feeling has arisen, that's the first step. And the second is to accept. We welcome this feeling in. It's not about denying it. It's not about gaslighting ourselves and telling ourselves we're not feeling it or that we should be feeling better. We acknowledge, we accept that it's here. And it's very much like the weather. You can't do anything if it's cloudy outside. If it's raining, that's just the weather of the day. What's the point in denying it? What's the point in being annoyed about it and wishing that it was sunny? So we can just be with the feeling that's present for us. And then the next step is to investigate. And this means just to take a little bit of time to tune into that feeling. Okay. Where is this feeling? What are the sensations? What are the qualities of it? Is there a temperature? Is there a movement? And then even deeper than that, is this feeling familiar? Because we can trace feelings back, and very often what we're experiencing is an echo. I was triggered. Someone rejected me. Now I'm feeling this sense of heaviness and closure. This is familiar. Yeah, that sense of loneliness that I had as a kid. We just trace it all the way back, and we're accepting of it. And then the last step is to nurture. And this is all about bringing that love, that embodied love. We might say something like, hey, you're welcome here. Or you belong here. This feeling of sadness belongs here in this moment. But we might also bring that warmth, that radiance to ourselves and say, hey, I feel this. It will be okay. Very often I will bring my hands to my heart because I find that helps tune in the awareness into that space. And also, just some physical touch is actually really powerful. We can give ourselves that physical touch too by touching our hearts. You can touch your belly at the same time. You can notice your breathing. And we can just be present. We can just be present with ourselves, with our feelings in this moment. So this has completely changed the way that I relate to myself. It's way more embodied. It's way more supportive. And I'm finding day in, day out, this increasing sense of love and self-compassion. Don't diminish the importance of words, of thoughts. Of course they are important. And in many ways, it's a stepping stone. Sometimes we need to dial down the noise in our minds, change the narrative a little bit so that we can create space for us to move into the body. But I found embodiment is the answer. It's about turning towards the thing that we've been avoiding. So I hope you found that helpful. I would love to hear how you get along with it. Just leave a comment below, like, subscribe. And also, if you really enjoy these videos, I'd love for you to follow my newsletter on Substack. The link is below. Very similar sort of material to this, so I think you'll like it. Alright, have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.